Why would you quit it?
Just because whenever I go publicly shames me in front of the class and says I don't know the entire subject.
It's not because you got one wrong. Because you think that you know it.
7. I don't. I tell her what I know. I know what I know. And she tries to tell me I know what I do. I'll be like, yes, I do. But I don't go around and brag to everyone and be like, I know what it is. No. She just tries to hate on me, and I don't really like that because I'm not going to sit there and act like I don't know it.
I'm telling you, just shut them out.
It says here, like, writes me hard on whatever it is because I'm going to be a teacher. Yesterday, for example, I was explaining to my friend Dakota, like, I have no idea how you convert radians into degrees. I'm like, it's easy. You take whatever number is on pi, you multiply it by 180, basically. And he's like, no, that's 100% wrong. That's completely wrong. Why would you tell me? But if you want to get exact, you take whatever the heck the number is, and multiply the entire thing by 180 over pi. Like, why would you tell her?
Well, the first thing was not right, the second thing was.
But it's the same as taking the coefficient in front of pi. And that's what I was saying, and she's like, that's wrong. It's the exact same thing. One's just including pi in both spots, and one had already eliminated pi in both spots.
Well, but it has to be eliminated. I don't want to. Alright, quiet. So, if I, again, didn't ask you to sketch it, but if I did sketch this, 5, 10 is a point on the original graph, and the derivative is -3, so that tells me that I've got something like that. I don't know if the real curve's doing that, or doing that, or doing that. I have no idea, but I know at that one spot, the slope is -3. So if I'm over at 5.2, I'm going a little bit to the right, should my y value be bigger or smaller than 10? It should be smaller, right? Because I got a negative slope, and I'm to the right of where so that's just the way you can check, like, make sure you do it right. I think some of you are probably doing these in your head now. You do need to be able to tell me the equation of the tangent line, too. So, which I didn't say in this, but I mean, just make sure you can do it. So, what goes here? 5 here, 10 here, -3, and then you would put 5.2 in there. So when you subtract them, you get 0.2 times -3 is -0.6. So that first one would be 9.4. Sorry, this is smaller. We already said. How many had 1 right? So I would say smaller since 5.2 is greater. Well, okay, if I just say slope's negative, is that enough?
No.
Because if the slope's negative, I could be over here, right? So you got to say, since 5.2 is greater than 5, or x value is greater than 5, and slope is negative. Same thing, same idea for this. So y equals, slope is 5, x value is 3, y value is 8. If I plug in 2.8, this will give me -0.2 times 5 is -1, plus 8 is 7. And that should be smaller. So now it's a positive slope, but we're like coming back to the left. So that's going to be low. Questions on those two? Okay, let's look at that sheet I just passed out to you.
He doesn't even respond. He shrugged.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that.
Yo, bro, said what's up?
Kyle, Logan, can you guys see those two formulas I've got? You might want to move for this lecture, for these notes, or copy them down, and then move back or something. But I'd like, so everyone write these two things down in their notes. The two thingies in the blue box thingies. So you might have to move. Nothing further, Claire. Lines. Claire, any lines? What's the problem? That help or make it worse?
Alex's birthday today. Happy birthday, Kyle.
Absolutely not.
He wanted you to say happy birthday to him.
Not now that you don't know that.
I think you should sing happy birthday to Kyle.
Is it your birthday, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah, we already sang him on.
Yeah, I didn't know who that was for. I remember my 12th birthday. That was a good day.
Wow. What was that?
Next year? Alright.
Mr. Davis throwing shade.
What are you?
F-backs minus
baby in this
FG.
room.
What are you like?
Is it F-backs minus FG over X minus T?
Yeah.
Barely got it without him to stand up.
A 12-year-old little girl died and she hung herself. She's like, yeah, she's like, I don't love it. What are you, like 12?
She just popped out of writing down the formulas that I told you to write tonight.
David's like, I'm a star
According to
student.
you.
Praise be.
I'm the star student. I was
Is that
named
your dog?
the worst in this room.
So, quiet please. Quiet please. So these are two different approaches to get the same general idea. This will give you a general derivative. So if I said like y equals x squared, this would give you 2x at the end. It would tell you like the derivative with x still in it. This is going to give you the derivative at a point, so the slope at a specific point. And notice that, I mean, so you're going to get one of those situations. You're going to kind of have to match up with the formula to figure out what's what. So notice this one has an h in it, and this one has an x there. So that's like your first big clue. If it's h approaching 0, we're here. If it's x approaching 3 or 7 or some number, we're looking at this one. So like if I look at number 1 here, that is, so is that general derivative or derivative at a point?
At a point.
That's at a point, and I can tell because it's x approaches 3. I want to know f of x and the x value before we start doing anything else. So f of x, I mean, you just kind of like, if you could just pick this up, move it over and drop it down on there, like whatever landed on f of x is your f of x. So what's f of x in this case?
X squared.
It's just x squared. Does that make sense how I'm getting that? Did someone say no? Or did you say no?
I mean, I said no.
Okay. What?
A little bit no, but also yes.
Can you explain it?
Can you
Wow.
explain?
That I don't know what to do with. That I don't know what to do with. So, the formula is f of x minus f of t over x minus t. F of x, therefore, must be x squared. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Alright? The x value is 3, because that's what x approaching. Yes.
Okay. But what keeps the whole, like, equation from being f of x? Because, like, normally when we approach a limit...
Later. I'm going to do this a lot. Because you ask questions that are not pertaining to what we're doing. Later. Ask me prior. It's not on track with the lesson.
Okay.
I would actually this should be that. So
Yeah.
Ask the question again.
what is the whole thing f of x?
Yeah.
What?
Like x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 is
Because
that
if you
f
give you a y
of x?
value, and a y value is f of x. That's how it
But I
is.
never named that function f of x. Maybe this whole function is g of x.
Oh, okay. So it gives you a y value, but then x squared is like a different function inside of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So does that make sense where I'm getting the x squared and the 3 from?
Yes.
Alright. So now, what this is asking you to do is, I mean, they're asking it as a find the limit question. We can do it as a find the limit question. We did that in the first chapter. Can I solve this using limits before I do derivatives? Can I find the limit? What do I do?
You factor the top, and then you
So that'd be x plus 3, x minus 3.
cancel Wow.
over x minus 3. These cancel, plug in 3, and what do you get?
6.
6. So we knew how to do that with limits. But I can also do it using the derivative. What's my original function? What's f of x?
X squared.
So if f of x is x squared, what's f prime of x? 2x. What is f prime of 3?
6.
6. So they're giving us the same information. So this is getting to the slope using limits. This is getting to the slope using derivatives, but it's the same setup. So here we're just saying, use the slope formula, use the limit, we'll find the slope that way. Just to say and skip all that, here's the shortcut. Question? I do C. So I can factor that top. And then the x minus 3's go away, and I'm just plugging 3 into.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it going to happen often in this class where we do something for a chapter and then learn an easier way to do it the next chapter?
Twice. You didn't even learn the. Yeah, twice. Once with derivatives, and then the whole second semester is integrals, which is derivatives backwards, but I have to build a longer process, and then I'll tell you a shortcut. But I'm not doing it because it's fun for me.
Oh, no. You definitely we do something like, oh, that makes sense, and we get easier to do it
But there's AP questions on the process, so that's why. Alright. This guy. Try it. I'll go through it, but let's see if you can. I don't know if I've explained it enough for you guys to get it at this point or not. Probably not. Let me give you a chance to try it anyways. If you don't get it, just wait. It's not that big a deal. What's f of x? Square of x. Do you guys know how to write that as x to a power?
Yeah.
X to the 1/2, right?
Yep.
So,
F of x is top left.
yes.
X of
So that's the derivative as a limit, right? Like of those two formulas on the board, that's the derivative as a limit. So we head to the right. There you go. Two formulas there. Which one are we using?
second one.
And that's x to the top left hand, right?
Okay.
You with me?
Yeah.
Laura?
But then how do you use a shortcut with that? Because if you're moving the 1/2 power down, wouldn't you, aren't you, how would you subtract 1?
You need my help to do 1/2 minus 1. Is that what you're telling me?
Is that legit what you do? Or is it okay.
Like 3,000. Right.
So you just
Oh, no,
Fresh,
that's
so weird.
weird.
are you just solving for x?
You're weird.
I know. Alright. Let me go through it, because there's a couple things in here that are new and you haven't done before. So first of all, we're dealing with derivative as a limit, right? Or derivative at a point, right? Not this one. So because I've got x down there and not h, then we're using this formula. This formula tells me f of x are your original functions in the top left. So your original function is the square root of x, which I would write as x to the 1/2 because I have to bring the power down at some point, and this one doesn't have a power, so it just makes sense to flip it. What does x equal? It just tells you what x, that's x right there, so x equal to 16. And it's using limits. Remember how to do that? There's two ways. Conjugate's one way.
Or you could just write the bottom.
Factor and
Or you can factor the bottom, so you can do this either way, but let me go through I'm going to factor it. Would you agree that I can write the bottom as the square root of x plus 4 times the square root of x minus 4? Because if I multiply these two together, I'll get x. I multiply those two together, I get negative 16, and the other two things are just cancel. So those go away. On the 1 on top, root of 16 in there. What's the square root of 16? 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. So I should get 1/8. Right? And it's using derivatives. So I have y equals, or f of x equals x to the 1/2. So my derivative rules tell me to bring down that 1/2, leave the x there, and do what with the power? Minus 1. So what's 1/2 minus 1?
Negative 1/2.
Negative 1/2. So now we get into a couple different issues. So I've really got that. I gotta plug 16 in, right? What does so we gotta know how to do like the power, the fractional powers, and negative sides. Number on the bottom, we practiced this out.
Yeah. It squares it, puts it under
I know, I got it. Just ask if we practiced. The number on the bottom tells you the root. So this is the second root or square root. So what's square root of 16? 4 to the first power. Say, what's 4 to the first power? 4. What does the negative exponent do? Flips it. So this really turns into 1/2 times 1/4, which is 1/8. Wait, like how do I do it to negative half, or why is there a negative 1/2 there? Because I got to reduce that. Like if I have, x to the 5th, the derivative is 5x to the 4th. I bring the number down because I'm subtracting 1. Please stop talking. Unless you're Kyle right now.
Okay, so I get that you do the square root because of the 2, and then you do to the first power because of the 1. But what happens to the negative in the 1/2?
The negative powers flip things over. So if I just had 16 to the 1/2, it'd be 4. But because I have 16 to the negative 1/2, it's 1/4. So negative powers just flip things upside down.
Can you explain how you get the 1/4 again? Can you just say it again?
Yeah. Second root of 16. So what's this? What number to the second power gives me 16? 4. 4 to the first power. 4. And then the negative exponent means I take whatever I have right now, which is 4, and flip it upside down. That part, I think is harder than the other one. Do this.
So
Just practice this real quick. I
so
said do this! What's the question? You two you're like the interrupting kings.
is that 2.5 to negative 3?
What are the other options for that number? I'm scared.
It's the
I thought it was very much like I thought it was C. I thought it was a variable. I thought it was C2. You were good.
This is just a separate problem to practice the power thing. 25 to the negative 3x.
So for these, we're just going to be finding the limits, which is just solving the whole thing, and then derivatives, which is just solving the one term. Right? Is that it? Or finding the derivative of one term. Is that it? Was that all?
That is not all we're doing. That's what we've done so far.
Okay. But like I'm on track here, I'm not stupid.
You're on track. I don't know about the second thing.
Okay, yeah. I'm stupid.
I'm still judging you. I'm not sure.
I-
What is the second root of 25? 5 to the third power. 125, and the negative exponent makes it 1 over 125. Alright. Questions on anything on there? Alright. So flip the page, and then these are the other kind with the H. These are a little goofy. You kind of gotta, I don't know, it's like you're fitting a puzzle together, kind of. So, that's H brought to 0, so I know I'm dealing with this one. If I just kind of write that down next to it, what goes here is f of x plus h minus f of x over h. So I'm asking you first to figure out what f of x is. It's tougher in this one than the other one. So what I'm going to write down here is, like, those are both the top left-hand spot, right? So that tells me that f of x plus h has to equal the square root of 9 plus h. And then I'm just kind of there's not like a formal process I'm able to show you here. What I do at that point is then go, okay, well, what's x equal? I can tell that right now.
9.
X has to equal 9, right?
Square root of it.
Because the h's match, and then no, x is just 9. That square root's part of like the main function. X is just like what goes. The square root is the bigger function. X is what I plug into. You'll see. I think you'll see when I keep going. So what if I said, what's f of 9? Sorry, wait. No. What if I said, what's f of x?
3.
Let's try this a different way.
Don't we have f of x as the 3 right there?
Yeah.
Because it's f of x plus h minus f of x, so
Minus
the f
3,
of x.
yeah.
But that's just a number. That's what I get after I plugged in a number. I don't know yet what the original. What did I do to get to that 3? So would you agree with this?
Why?
Why?
What did I do?
Oh, you plugged in the 9 into the x.
I just put the 9 in place of the x.
Okay.
We agree that x equals 9, right? So therefore we're going to plug the 9 in place of the x.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, could I say f of x equals the square root of x plus h?
Sure.
What did I do there?
Just of both 9s, you just made them all x's.
I just put the x's in instead of the 9s, right? And what's h? What's h approaching?
0.
So could I say that f of x equals the square root of x?
Sure.
Because h is 0, so it doesn't really matter. And then I could check it. Is it true that f of 9 is 3? I know this is like a lot at once. I'm going to do a couple of them.
Yeah.
Then I can go through and be like, well, this should be f of x when x is 9. So is that f of x when x is 9? Is that the square root of 9? It is. So then we can go back up here. What is f of x? It's the square root of x. What is x? It's 9. That's goofy. I mean, I don't have like a formal, like you do this, then this, then this. It's almost like you're just kind of lining things up and reasoning through it. Should I do it again? Just like start over?
Just do the whole thing.
Yeah, let's do it again. Okay. So,
Oh my gosh. We just went up.
so if this was just like, if it said this, I think the problem would be a lot easier. Because then you could look at it and be like, well, f of x is the square root of x. They just look at 9. But when it's a 3, you're not quite sure how they got to that 3. So that's why we're kind of trying to line things up and do it that way. So my thought process was this. I know f of x plus h equals the square root of 9 plus h. All I'm doing there is going, okay, top left must equal top left.
I got you.
Okay? I also know f of x equals, no, I'm not going to do that yet. Okay, from here, would you agree with that statement?
Assuming that would be x, yeah.
So what am I doing there? What did I basically just
So
do?
the first,
The 9 is equal to x.
But how do you know that?
Because there's a 9 where the x is. So x
so
has to
x
matter.
in this problem equals 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not like in life, just here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, whenever you look at any problem, that
Right.
is automatically not. Just know that.
Then,
I just thought x was a variable in this problem. There's no x's in this problem. All the x's are solved for, aren't they? Or
yes, because like this doesn't say the square root of x, it's the square root of 9. So like x's are already plugged in.
okay, so what's h doing here? I'm sorry.
This is just the slope formula.
Alright.
This is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The x is canceled. That's just this over here where we had like x plus h minus x. Okay. Okay, so what do I know now? Like what else? What's my next? Or what would your next thought process be?
Plug in 0 for h.
Okay, so is it true that f of 9 is the square root of 9? Does f of 9 equal 3? He said plug in 0 for h. H is 0, so that's fine. F of 9 equals the square root of 3. So that actually helps me because that 3 is right there. So what do I know now?
X equals 9.
I know that x equals 9.
Didn't you know that?
F of x
And-
would equal 3.
When we plugged in 9 for x right away, did we know that x was higher that way?
Yes.
So why don't we write that earlier? Why did we
Makes
go
more
through all
sense.
When
that?
x equals 9, f of x equals 3.
Seriously, I don't know.
Why-
I understand you're asking questions, but I'm starting to get frustrated because I talk for 20 seconds and then one of you two stops me. Like,
I'm
just
sorry.
wait till I'm done.
Sorry.
Then I'll ask if there's questions. Then you can fire away.
Okay.
Okay? Could I replace that 9 with an x and say that I know that is true? So what's f of x? Square root of x. Are there questions? Why didn't I write it 20 seconds ago? I don't know. That doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying. I thought you were saying that you didn't know that x equals 9 until your third step, and I thought you knew that after your second step.
I was just summarizing what we did.
Oh, okay, sorry.
How's that seem?
Not that bad.
It's starting to
Now-
get better.
Starting to click.
So these ones down here. Answer using limits. Could I solve that using limits?
Yeah.
I don't really want to do it, to be honest. But could I?
Yeah.
Can I rationalize it? Answer using the derivative. So, well, that's basically what we just did. Let's do it again. So y prime equals x to the 1/2. No, y equals x to the 1/2. Find y prime and plug in x, and let's make sure we're on the same page.
The root on the top.
You're plugging in a number. So there shouldn't be a root anywhere in your answer.
Oh, plugging in 9 for it.
Yeah.
How do you is the way to answer performance is that
You would rationalize and multiply by like the square root of 9 plus h plus 3
oh
on top and the bottom, the conjugate thing. Is that fair enough?
plug in 0 at the end.
Yeah. I just want to move on with this stuff.
Yeah.
So what's your derivative here? It's 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. Then I'm going to plug in 9, so we get that like power deal again. So what's the second root of 9? 3. 3 to the first is 3. Negative flips it over. So we have 1/2 times 1/3, which should be 1/6. How many had 1/6? Okay. Questions on anything in that? Look at the next one. Do you want a second to try it?
Yes.
Yes.
You're getting it whether you want it to run or not, I guess. If you don't want it, just wait. I'll go through it.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, no,
Oh.
I know this.
It's just those two. So they're not asking for that. I just like put them in one. Hopefully they'll hear it.
No, that's. Yeah.
This is just
plus h be rewritten as 2 to the 4 times.
I suppose. Yeah, but that's not relevant in this situation. If it's f of x, I want to know. There's no x.
Oh, I solved the problem. He flipped
I thought 2 to the 4th would be your x, and 2 to the 8th would be your h value. So it would be 16 times 2 to the 4th. And then
That's
That's like when you scratch, you plug in one, that's f of 4. So, but I want to write it like with x's. I don't really want to know. I want to know the original equation. So, what this tells me is x equals 4. There's 4 plus 6 there, and x there. So, x equals 4.
and what about the 2?
So, would you agree that and then you're right, like when x is 4, 2 to the 4th is 16, but I'm trying to go back a step from that. What was my equation before
Okay, so one thing that I've been noticing, like a lot of these, like we're ignoring the 2 things.
That's right there. That's right. But we're not ignoring.
Okay. I just feel like it should be harder than that.
Okay, then I don't want to talk about this is that, like,
That's why
if everyone was you, I wouldn't get a patient. You would have
we all have the exact same questions. You'd be able to teach class a million times.
Are you gonna explain? Yeah. No, I just have to go to the bind, so I just want to find it.
You was a cat, and now it's
So, I'm going to start, you can start wherever you want, but I'm going to start over there and say, well, I know f of x equals 2 to the 4 plus h. Because they're in the same spot in the formula. Oops, sorry, that's f of x plus h. So then, therefore, I can look at that and say, okay, well, it must be true that f of 4 plus h equals 2 to the 4 plus h. Agree?
Yes.
So what's x?
4.
So x is 4. From there, I just have a general pattern now. I have f of whatever equals 2 to the whatever. If I said, what's f of Stephen, what would it be? 2 to the Stephen. Well, I want to know f of, not Stephen, I don't give a crap about Stephen. I want to know f of x. What's f of x?
gives you bad reviews on your videos.
2 to the x. You can go wherever you want.
I just don't want to do that yet.
Yes.
I get confused.
Like, just start that one over?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I know that f of x plus h equals 2 to the 4 plus h. And that's just right now like the top left piece of both formulas, right? So then I look here and I'm like, well, those two are the same. Like, I don't even need to make that next step. I know that those two are the same. I got the plus h, and so then I got a 4 and an x there. So 4 and x must be the same thing. So I'm just writing down this step to kind of almost just verify that. And then I know that since those were in the same spot, that x must equal 4.
So it's just whatever is like being added to the h.
It's like whatever's next to the h. And then I've got this thing where f of whatever equals 2 to the whatever. Like, that's just a general setup. I can plug anything I want in there. They want to know about x, so let's put x in those spots. Yeah.
Does it also help that, like, in the formula thing, it says, like, the equal, or minus the f of x, and then that's minus 2 to the 4?
Yeah, for
Which
sure.
further reinforces that.
Yes. In there, in the the formula is f of x. So f of x is 2 to the 4th, but like they've already plugged the 4 in. But that does help reinforce it, for sure. Is it relevant?
My question was already answered. My question was your question.
Okay.
So whatever you're adding h to is x. Because
Yeah, because like the x plus
like,
h.
so you can just assume that what you're adding h to is your x.
Yeah.
Yes, you should just.
Alright, and then the bottom is just like making sure you know how it's phrased. Stop talking. So the question is asking for the limit of 2 to the x or of f of x as x approaches 4. That's just like phrasing it the way it is. Other questions on this? Okay, rest is for you. Yeah.
Like cosine and natural log.
Yeah,
E's
that's
and logs
all
are
like,
gonna die.
Is that general derivative or derivative at a point?
Specific point.
Derivative at a point. So what is f of x?
Cosine of x.
What is x? Nah.
X is x.
Pi.
Yes, it's true.
Oh, the
That's it.
Is that literally all?
Oh, I didn't know you had to solve it. I thought you just
Awesome.
That's all we're doing. I don't think it's because the
This isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No, it's next one is pi.
Yeah, so it says in the limit of x as x approaches t. So it should be x minus t, so wouldn't t be pi?
If x is approaching t, you're the same thing.
Yeah, but
So this can help you. X is approaching t, so x and t are going to be the same number. So yes, you're right, but that doesn't. That's the same thing. You can also verify it here. So this is supposed to be f of t. So this should be cosine of pi. Well, what's cosine of pi? No, it's not 1.
Oh, it's negative.
It's negative 1, which is why this is a plus sign. So it's minus.
Yeah. Get them.
That's another way to like kind of verify what you're doing. Okay? Does that help? You want me to do the next one?
yeah.
Okay.
Next one's all zero. Got it.
Okay, so now like you're super confused, you just want to check your answer. Let me give people a chance to try it.
Oh.
Yeah. No. Cool.
Oh, because E is x.
Yes. Which is right.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, would we leave? For
Awesome.
8 for 7, would we write? Would we change the exponent of e for f of x for a? As it equals e to b. Would we change that second e? As the,
To an x.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's u to x. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to assume do number 6. You can look at it. So f of x just in that spot. So that's just f of x is ln of x. This is the derivative at a point, so that one's a little easier, I think. And then x is what in this situation? E, and you can check it, because right there should be ln of e. If you think about what that means, e to what power gives me e? That's 1. So that's a way to kind of verify that you're on the right track.
What's the log of
Kyle, are we on the right track?
Yeah.
Okay. What's what?
is the log of 1 0?
Log of 1? So I want to know, doesn't matter what I have down there,
Yeah,
what
okay,
power
actually 0. Yep.
will always give me 1, which is 0. Should I do the next two too? Like, are you ready?
Yes.
Alright.
Yeah.
So for 7, f of x comes out to e to the x, and x equals e. Did we get that?
Yeah.
Alright, and then for this one, f of x would be log of x, and x would be 1. We get that?
Yeah.
Okay. You have all that concept to do tomorrow night, remember. I'm not giving you time in class tomorrow. So, there's no like homework specifically for today, but make sure you get that stuff done. Remember, that's a grade. It's not gonna all be that easy. I think that's like one of the harder.
Well, once I learned it, it's just
Figure it out,
like,
it's like, okay,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
like-
super duper easy and obvious. And like,
just find
figuring
It
out
is,
how to
it's
do
hard
it.
to teach, I feel like.
Yeah,
Hard to
it's
explain.
like
Yeah,
it's
it's
hard to
hard to
comprehend
explain.
at first, but now that
But like once you
it's
see
like
it, you always see it. Yep.
Right.
Cause like those were like just look at it, I can tell, but like.
Yeah, I might have over-explained it, but I kind of felt like I needed. I don't know.
I was good with it.
there's just one part I really
And then that
don't.
second page, like the second one.
Is it good now, though?
Yeah, now I got it.
Okay.
Are you busy? Right. Okay, I just have one question. This is what I've been wanting to ask you, and this really bugs me. How come a derivative, usually slope, gives you the same thing as limits, which is the y value?
Old enough to know what's
All I want to know
what
is
you
like
want.
why it works.
What the limit is giving you
Yesterday's meeting of the year will be today.
is the limit of the slope formula.
All are
So
welcome.
it's going, because this is the
The
slope.
11th or
Divide
12th
two
grade.
minus y.
Oh, okay, no, that was the slope formula. I thought that was like just the
That's
equation
like
of a line.
the same idea as this one.
Okay, I didn't know. I thought it was like an equation of a line, like any other limit, and like pretty much we're plugging an x value, and it'll give us a y value, and it's just a function. I didn't know that it was like.
I understand.
Oh, I wanted to know. So is it pretty much going to be like that always when they ask, and they're always just going to give us the slope formula?
I mean, in these kinds of problems, yeah. Not like always in life.
So technically all you have to do is like cross off the H, and then whatever the number or letter that's there is the X, and then you replace that number with an X, and that's f of X.
Pretty much, yeah. That was weird to teach.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like explain to you why.
It makes sense, yeah. So all you have to do is cover up that whatever's left is X, and you change that with an X, and that's your f of X.
Seriously, I was going to show
I
you.
finally finished.
It wasn't 37, right?
Oh, in the tape, yeah. I helped you a little bit.
Yeah, I got messed up at
That's
that.
all.
I
You were
was
like
going to
sliding
do
or
this.
something.
Yeah, I know. It kept on getting messed up. That was kind of confusing at first, but now it makes complete sense. It's kind of... Nope. Wait, yeah, I know. Sorry, Steven.